They say when you love your work, the distinction between the weekday and the weekend blurs. But when the office is so pretty, that line blurs even further. So let's get chatting with the management of Nestle. Suresh Narayanan joins us on The Weekender today. But I started with a person loving their job so much, showing their passion towards their job, comes from the age-old Saint Kabir himself, who I gather you're a big fan of and you follow him a lot.
One of the dohas that Kabir had used in order to explore leadership and to explore the world, he said, "Jin dhoondha tin paiyan, gehre pani paiti." Jin dhoondha, jo खोजेगा वही पाएगा, गहरे पानी पैठी, which is inside the deep in the water he'll find the treasure. मैं बूढ़ी डूबन डरी, me an old person डूबने के घबराहट से डरी, रही किनारे बैठी. So I think all our lives are the lives of not only cherishing what we have but also discovering new things. For me, Nestle has been a very, very inspiring journey. Every morning I get up, Mangalam, I'm energized by the thought that I'm going to be meeting a lot of young, energetic, driven people, right. Carrying forward not only the cause of the company, but also carrying forward their lives. As you know, my role is more of an orchestra conductor rather than the musician himself. But that is the joy. The joy of leadership is to be able to rediscover yourself in the actions of others.
You said Jin Dhunda Tin Paiya. What are you searching for right now from a company standpoint?
From the company standpoint, I'm looking at new pastures and new avenues for growth. I mean, we have been a successful company over 100 years in this country. We have some of the most iconic brands that are there with us. And yet there is even more. I mean, the inflection point of India has arrived. Today, aspirations need to be met with availability. And I think the Indian consumer, despite all the talk of global recession and various other economic pressures because of the war and other things, I think India is still a buzzing place.
Yeah.
Indian consumers are still willing to try new things, but try basis the trust that they have in brands. And I think Nestle is truly blessed to have brands that have been trusted over decades.
And that trust, periodically being tested as well and coming out with flying colors.
I think ultimately, as I keep telling my team, we are on a perpetual roller coaster. There was a time when we were on a steady state conveyor belt. The conveyor belt has now given way to a roller coaster. The principles will be still the same. The ability to anticipate and be agile.
Could you give me some example of how agile and flexible Nestle has become since the time you took over?
The corpus of the portfolio that Nestle has globally is about 2,000 or more brands. But the presence in India itself of brands was a lot more limited in terms of presence, in terms of innovation, in terms of presentation to consumers. One of the things that came out of our learnings out of our crisis that we faced some years ago, one of the things we question ourselves is our pace of innovation.
Right.
And I'm happy to say that today, using the same processes, because one thing is to jettison everything and say, I'm not going to care for any of the processes, any of the safety nets that the company works on, and just look at launching products without any consumer meaning or insight. That's not the Nestle way. Nestle goes through a deliberate process. We go through a deliberate process, except that today we don't have two things. One, we don't have a fear of failure, and secondly, speed of response. If something is 60-70% ready to go, then go.
Right.
Don't wait for perfection to happen. And today, post the crisis, we have launched almost 123 new products. Our pace of innovation, Mangalam, is 3 to 4 times faster than it was 10 years ago. So, and it contributes about 5 to 6% of our sales. So I see this, and it also spawns other things. Our innovation in products has led to innovation in process. We have today the analytics and digital project called Midas in the company, which incidentally in the last annual general meeting of the company, the global CEO announced is being rolled out globally now, the Midas that came out of India.
Yes. What does all of this boil down to? I mean, I'm just looking at, the most important parameter in an FMCG company, according to me, would be the sales of a company. Sales led by volume, sales led by premiumization, sales led by some price hikes, if at all. What's the aspiration for Nestle going from here? I mean, are you looking at mid-teens sales growth? Are you looking at double-digit volume growth? How do you define that aspiration?
Look, I think one of the simple models, Mangalam, that we set forth 8 years ago is what we call the grow to win model.
Okay.
Grow to win simply means penetration-led volume growth. Even an evolved category has got an annual penetration of 35-40%, right? And in some categories it goes up to 80%. But if you were to look at it on a monthly basis, the penetration levels falls quite significantly to almost half of that. Which means what? That people need to buy more of the category, more frequently into the category, and more of the category.
What was counterintuitive then was why is it then you had to phase out the low unit packs or leave important price points in some of your star products? Case in point, something like Maggi.
Look, I think one of the things, and there is more, two things are happening in this country.
Yeah.
One is what we call the popularly positioned price products. It's still about a third of our portfolio.
Okay.
So it's not that's not an important part of the portfolio. It's still a third of the portfolio and growing very well, and in fact becoming the driver, the front end of the charge into the urban markets. The other thing which is happening is there is premiumization taking place. So we are operating in both the vectors. Now, last year was an unprecedented inflation for us. The average inflation that we had to combat on an annualized basis was anywhere between 20 to 22%. Now, obviously, this meant that some of it we could find the avenues for in terms of what we call the shark savings, which is buying smarter, buying longer, and being more efficient in your recipes. And the second part was really to look at other costs that we were able to mitigate as an organization, and finally look at pricing.
Okay.
And in looking at pricing, there were some parts of the portfolio that needed to be touched. But we touched those parts of the portfolio where we knew that we also have an upgradation of the portfolio strategy that is there in place. Maggi was a case in point, that there was an upgradation strategy there. It is in motion now, so I would not say that the journey has ended.
Okay.
But in order to mitigate some of the pain points of moving out of price points, some of the things, Mangalam, I think a crisis brings is the ability to think outside the box. And I think that is prepares us well for times where we might face this in the future, but yet we are capable of taking it head on because of the capabilities that we have built.
That reminds me of another Kabir doha which says, "Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein kare to dukh kahe ko hoy."
Absolutely.
Which is basically what you're doing. You're sticking to the process during the good times, so that when the bad times come, you will be pretty ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Was there any impact of the price point movement on the market share?
Look, I think in some categories, and certainly in Maggi, and I referred to this earlier, there was an impact on volumes because obviously the price point that we moved out was quite sharp. But I'm happy to say that I think we have stabilized and now we are building back. On average, if you look at the company's performance in the last 6 to 7 years, we have been averaging a double digit. So about 10-11% on average growth, consisting of a price impact of about 3% and volume of about 7 to 8%.
Right.
We have maintained the charter of the growth engine of the company strong and secular for all these years. Last year we grew at 14%, but the volume delivery was lower than that. That has now again started to recover back. In the last quarter, our results had about a 5% volume growth, about 2.5 mix, which I count it as a positive sign that there is an uptrading that is happening. So about 7.5%, and the balance 14% was the price impact. As we go forward, we are expecting that the volume led growth will strengthen over a period of time, provided of course that the inflation, which looks to be as of now a little bit more tempered as compared to what it was. If this continues, then I think we'll be back into the journey of penetration led volume growth, which is the mantra that we will use as a company.
So, with all the building blocks that you're putting in place, with the capex, with the rurbin, with the digital tools that you're building, is there a case for volumes to structurally go higher into double digits with some mid-single digit sort of price growth? You've been averaging around 11-12% over the last 7 years. Can this grow to 15%?
I certainly see this. I think the pace of premiumization and the acceleration in some categories will definitely give us that opportunity. There are also new categories. I mean, for example, I'm very excited about our entries into breakfast cereals, into pet care, and into health sciences. Health sciences for me is a very nascent, but yet a very promising category. We operate in about 7 categories there. This would be better value, not necessarily great volume because they'll be relatively small, but better value products, so that the mix between volume and value will be something that we'll be able to accelerate even further as we go forward.
5,000 crore capex, historical asset turns would suggest it could double your business from current levels. Is that what your idea is? I mean, this capex, how do you look at it? How is it you looking at it from a sales CAGR standpoint of 10 to 15% over the next few years? Do you look at it as suboptimal utilization until your distribution ramps up and then you go full blown? How exactly do you look at it?
Look, I think the whole the philosophy of the organization is to secure the growth engine. I believe, Mangalam, having been in the trenches for a long time, growth can be a panacea for many of the detractors that you come across the way. So securing the growth engine is clearly the most important task ahead of me and my team. And there, penetration-led volume growth is a key lever that we will be using. And I think as a consequence of this, the capexes that we have planned, about 2,600 crores in the last couple of years and about 5,000 crores going forward for the next 3 years, are meant to create capacities that is ahead of demand. Now, we can't be waiting for asset utilizations of 100% and then say, now I'm going to build a factory. Now, a couple of weeks back, I was in Varanasi and driving down to Gazipur. In the old days, it used to be a dirt track. Today, there's a 6-lane highway. I was talking to one of our distributors. He said, sir, distribution has become so much easier. Now, tell me, Mangalam, distribution becoming easier makes products more accessible. It generates employment. There's a retailer out there, consumers out there. The brand reach is improving. I go to a 2,000 population village and I asked we have got a Swabhiman program, rural village women entrepreneur program. And I asked this lady, I said, which brand amongst the ones that you got here has got the maximum love and traction? And she said, KitKat. Now, I could never have imagined 5 years ago or 10 years ago that KitKat will be a brand of choice in a 2,000 population village. And as I keep telling my team, the time for a Nestlé has come. हर आदमी का वक्त आता है. Kabir said beautifully, he said, धीरे धीरे से मना, धीरे सब कुछ होय, माली सींचे 100 घड़ा, ऋतु आए फल होय. The gardener takes 100 buckets of water and puts it on the plant, on the seed. But Ritu aaye, only when the spring happens will the fruit happen.
So you are hoping that the weather is favorable for India's growth. On this village distribution itself, rural accounted for what, 20-25% of your sales, much lower than everyone else. Do you have an aspiration of increasing that? And distribution, with you increasing your reach, How does that change your product strategy? Or does your product strategy remain and the distribution just feeds your current strategy?
Look, I think, I must say, Mangalam, that looking at the rural-urban kind of, there is no ambition that I want to get my rural sales to 50% or 60%.
Yes.
For me, the penetration game is as much alive in mega cities and metros as it is in tier 2, tier 6 cities.
Is there a number to
rural.
that? I mean, say for instance, can you say that, okay, this penetration-led gain would get me an additional 10% of sales every year or additional 5%? How does one look at it like
Look,
that?
I think the growth vector is definitely faster in the smaller towns because of the lower base.
Yes.
We are able to, using the power of analytics and digital, to really geo-target even PPP products within urban agglomerates. Earlier, we did not have that capability to be able to digitally sharp focus and geo-target the kind of launches and products and portfolio that we were looking at. Today, we are able to do it. Along with that, there is a huge amount of activation as well. You know, one of the things that we are doing in small towns and in rural India is participating. I think last year we had about 25,000 hearts, which is the village fairs, where Nestle participated.
Yes.
That's a fantastic way to get both visibility and to get trials. I think the only mantra that I've given my team is growth, growth, growth.
Thank you for this unlimited cup of coffee that I get at the Nestle office. But I wanted to understand from you, now that you say India is at an inflection point, a lot of people are looking at India, the global brands. What proportion of global brands are slated to come to India? Nestle's global brands. You have 2,000 brands. Not even a handful of them are in here in India. Nestle is big in ice creams globally. Yes. Nestle is big in a lot of other categories globally. Do we see some of those coming here?
Well, we have enough of apart from the 4 or 5 categories in which we are in. Now we also have got health science, and we got pet care, and we got breakfast cereals, and I think there is enough and more to be done in these categories itself. So the portfolio and the plan for the company is quite full in terms of leveraging the opportunities in existing categories with some more of additions of relevant products that we will have from the global stable in terms of recipes, but which will ultimately get manufactured in India.
What kind of opportunity do you see from Purina coming in the next, say, 3 years or 4 years? What proportion of your salience should Purina be?
Look, Purina is, for us, it's really a top-notch, top-flight business. Today it is minuscule. If I'm able to get it to 4 to 5% of my business, it will be a terrific performance because of the sheer size of the company otherwise.
And Gerber?
And Gerber, again, as far as the tolerization is concerned, today you have seen only one product, which is Gerber cereals.
Yes.
But there are at least 4 or 5 more products that are ready for that are getting ready for launch in terms of a range from Gerber.
Hand on heart, are you very happy with the way your performance in the breakfast cereals has been?
I think we have put in our best behind it, and we are seeing signs of traction now.
Okay.
And I think which is a good thing for us. And a few of the innovations that we are putting together will strengthen our presence in the category. We do not get into a category with a uniform expectation that it will blossom into a star in a couple of years. We allow it to nurture for a while with all the inputs and with all the support and confidence that we can have. After all, even a brand like Maggi noodles took almost a decade to settle into the kind of standard that you see today.
Right. So, let's put it this way then. What have your learnings over the last 2 years in the breakfast cereal space been?
Look, I think it's been in terms of the kinds of products and packs that we need to look at, the kind of geographies that we need to look at, the kind of channels that we need to leverage, and I think these are important lessons. And with the size and scale of the company in the food space, I think the lessons are well learned, and the initiatives you will see now in the market.
So amidst all of this, what happens to any inorganic opportunities? Are you open to that? Because Nestle hasn't been acquisitive in particular.
No, I think that definitely remains, and any attractive, most opportunities are definitely explored, and yes, God willing, we will have fruitions in some of them as we go along.
Do the fruitions taste like Desi Chinese?
Let me not egg you on with this. But the fact of the matter is, yes, everything is on the table. Nothing is off the table.
Yeah. No. The reason why I asked this, and not particularly because I'm looking for any scoop here or not, is basically to understand the rationale. Because you're the leader in prepared dishes. You have a lot of products which are category leaders. You can obviously create a category of your own in that.
Every brand has got its core proposition, and it's got its essence, as it were. Going beyond that sometimes doesn't yield results for you. And that's the reason why you have got brands in the first place. So Maggi or a Nescafe or a KitKat stands for a particular consumer proposition, a particular lifestyle, a particular value delivery to consumers. If you extend it and put it into everything, it becomes a problem.
And you're not worried about large conglomerates getting into the FMCG space? Reliance, case in point, competition is...
Look, I respect competition a lot. I think competitions provide a new impetus of inspiration to my company in terms of what is possible. I respect, but I don't fear.
One of the fears that the street has, and it's a recent fear emanating from what happened last quarter in another large MNC, is that the royalty renegotiation comes up next year. 4.5% of sales is what you pay right now. Is there a risk that it could increase given the global focus on India and the opportunity that India provides?
Let me not speculate on that. I think timely discussions will happen, deliberations will happen, and whatever is done will be done in the interests of the shareholders and in the interest of the organization. So there is nothing to fear as far as this is concerned.
You joined in July 2015 in the heat of crisis. This is Nestle India that I'm talking about. You did amazing 5 years. Then there was a renewal that came in for the next 5 years that comes up for renewal in July 2025. Do you wish to play on for longer, or?
Look, I think every person has a time and a role that they play in the theatre of life. I have played it, and I play it with all commitment and hard work. And yes, I think watch the space as to what next.
What's the space? What next? I mean, we're standing in the shadow of
Henri
Nestle.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
What do you think? Whenever, if say Henri Nestle was to ask you,
I will be extremely proud to report back to him, saying, I hope I've lived the purpose and values that you set for this company.
And what an ideal retirement for Suresh Narayanan would be?
Well, I would love to teach. I love to interact with young people. This is give back time for me. It's give back time in the company as well.
How would you end this conversation with a doha?
बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर पंछी को छाया नहीं फल लागे इतनी दूर. What is the point of being a khajur tree which is right up there and nobody is able to access you or to eat your fruit? I think the joys of leadership lies in being accessible, in being authentic, and also in being helpful in whatever way you can to your team. And that alone is the reward for all the efforts that you put.
Thank you so much. This was pleasure. This was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Mangalam. Cheers.